the amount of women who message me on a regular basis who are like, okay, like I took your advice, I went to go get lab work, they wouldn't run it, which is insane. Like we have a right to know what's going on in our bodies, first of all. And they're like, oh, your labs are normal. And I'm like, okay, normal doesn't mean shit though. We want optimal. And then she's like, I feel terrible, but everything came back normal. So my doctor just told me to like eat 1,000 calories and fast. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? If you're not feeling good, there is something going on. I don't care what anyone tells you. You know your body better than anyone else. And if you don't feel well, something is going on. And you need to keep finding someone else who will like actually listen and validate that and actually give you something to do.
What's going on, friends? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you are new to my corner of the internet, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here. Now, I have a really cool episode for you today. This is another one of my in-person interviews, and I'm telling you, they are so much more fun. The vibes are on a different level, and I'm really excited to bring you this one today because it's going to help you a lot. I brought back onto the show my friend Stephanie Fusnik. Now, with Stephanie, she has been on the podcast before. We talked about some metabolism stuff, or not metabolism, but menopause stuff specifically, because Stephanie is one of the greatest when it comes to stuff around menopause and whatnot. So that's why I wanted to bring her onto the show again, because it was in person and just to talk more in depth about all of this stuff. Because a lot of stuff has changed in her life. And I think that, you guys will be able to learn a lot from some of the things that she's implemented. Like she had a lot of life things go on, like how she dealt with the grief of passing of her mom, and some other things in life that are going on with schedules being crazy and travel and all this stuff. So I think hearing some of her tactics and strategies around all of that busyness, grief, getting married, like the whole 9 yards is going to be helpful. But at the same time, the reason I wanted to get her back on was I want to talk more about metabolism and menopause specifically. So because a lot of times there's this big issue around menopause and fat loss, where a lot of people think because of what doctors say or because of what, stuff on Facebook says or whatever, that menopause is the death sentence for fat loss. And it's not the case at all. But there are very specific ways you want to go about losing weight the right way if you have menopause, whether it's no matter what stage of menopause you're in. So I figured, why not actually bring on someone who is an expert in that field? And I wanted to just interview them that way to give you guys as much value as possible to help you get from where you're at to where you want to be. Most of our clients, like a vast majority of our client base, have menopause, or whether they're in perimenopause or the different phases of menopause. So we deal with this all the time, but I always think it helps having just another person's point of view who does this stuff as well. So I know you're going to love what Stephanie has to say. I know you're going to learn a lot. Be sure and stick around. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will shut up now and get Stephanie on. What's up, Steph? How are you?
I'm doing great.
Is this your first in-person podcast?
Well, I did one with Taylor actually in person.
Your husband in your own living room doesn't count.
Then yes.
Okay, let's go. I love it. After doing this, I do not want to go back to remote podcasts. Like, I think I want to just book flights.
It's just different to vibe off each other.
It's a total vibe. And it's just, it's like any other conversation. Like hanging out is so much more fun than Zoom hanging out.
Yeah, it's not the same.
But so this is number 2. Is it the second time? Number 2. So what's new in the life of Steph since last time?
I got married.
Yeah. Off camera, hubby's over here.
He is here.
Making great jokes.
It's going to be really distracting.
I'm loving it. It makes this even better. Taylor's over here making penis hand gestures.
Yeah.
Keep a straight face. So
yeah, it's not great. Well,
you guys got married. Now, you guys got married pretty quick, didn't you?
Yeah. We met in December. I moved in January, engaged in March, married in July.
Well, I
haven't even known him a year yet.
So I remember we were all sitting at one of the coaching cons, and you're like, I need to get married. Being alone sucks.
Yeah. Well, it was just single and bored. And then I was like, you know what, whatever. I'll just marry my work. And then I did for a while. And then
this bastard came into your life.
Yeah. But I mean, I was on the dating apps for a long time. And then it was if I want to work more than I want to see you, then I don't know, if I don't even want to talk to you, this isn't worth meeting you in person. And he was literally the only person that survived more than 2 days of texting.
He's like, you know what? I don't want to see you that much either. So this works out great. I love it. What else? Anything else other than you got a farm now?
Yeah, we have lots of like goats. I never thought I would love a goat so much, which is really weird.
It's like a coarse puppy. That's all it is.
Yeah, like one of the little goats got out and like kind of hurt his leg, and like I cannot believe how panicked and like distraught I was over this little goat's leg. Not like he's okay now, he's good, don't worry. But like, yeah, I cannot believe I'm so attached to a goat. It's really weird.
Are they named? Are all your animals
Oh yeah,
named?
There's 12 of them. I don't know if I could name them all off the top of my head right now, but our little babies.
So you're a poser.
Yeah, a little bit. I have my favorites and I know their names.
Offended right now. He's like, how dare you not know the names of all of our babies and the colors of their eyes?
I have my favorites names remembered. I think if I had them all there, I could like actually like list them all off the names, but I don't off the top of my head. I'm going to forget like two that I don't care about. Probably.
Do you name them like human names? Like my brother names his dog like Kirk. Like,
see, but I love that. I really want like a wiener dog named Frank. That's
because of like Frank hot dogs.
Yeah. We have a Gus.
You do have a Gus?
Yeah, and a Messi. He's a goat.
Oh, I love it.
Like Lionel Messi and Beckham. But like no actual like people names, just like the little cow Theo is the only
Kevin,
people name.
Sarah.
Oh, Kevin is
Jason.
a good name.
Kevin's a great goat name. I'm sorry for any Kevins listening. You have a goat name.
We'll name our next goat after you, Kevin.
That's right. Name one Jared. Jared, quit fucking humping your brother or whatever. Like
they do that sometimes. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're bored. Like, oh, you couldn't help myself. So our male dog does that. He's really humpy. And he shouldn't be, because he got fixed. Like when we got him when he was like 13 weeks old, and he was already fixed, which is like fucked his testosterone up.
Yeah.
But I don't want it. I'm glad they did. I don't want it any higher. He's older he's probably 6 or 7 now as a dog, and he humps like a fucking teenage boy. It is ridiculous. So he'll come over and get all super excited. Wow, that's really loud. He'll come over and he's like, what's up? And just like, oh, sorry, Remy's a little
too stimulated.
Could you imagine if like we were like that, like people, it's like, hey, what's up? I'm Jared. Oh, sorry. That just happens. Like I couldn't imagine.
I don't know that I would have many friends.
Imagine,
like,
societally, like my female dogs do it too.
I don't even know how to respond to this.
I don't know. It's probably because I don't know. Anyway, like, yeah, this is Stephanie. We're the menopause expert, and we're talking about patterns of dogs humping.
Oh my
gosh. I love it. This is great. What else? Anything else new? Anything else, or I mean, those are some pretty big moves. Like
those are like the big monumental ones for sure. But like, yeah, other than that, life's just like chilling. Nothing's too crazy. Traveling a lot more.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
Yeah. So the question. So that makes. I have two thoughts. No, number one is everyone's answers to this is different. Is there anything you've changed your mind on or opinion on lately?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's like a loaded one.
Yeah. We'll keep it, let's say, in the realm of like client-y stuff, weight loss and hormones, like all of that. Like, is there anything that you've changed your perspective or opinion or view on?
Like we do lots of like specialized stuff and things like that with like hormones and all that kind of stuff. But I think people just get so caught up in like pigeonholing themselves of like, this must be like the issue and I got to fix this. And even when people come in and they do hormone testing and stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, like this is tanked or this is tanked. But really it's like, okay, but how do you fix this? We fix this by like eating enough food, sleeping, having enough hydration. And I think sometimes in the health and fitness field, even with us, like I think sometimes you try to like over specialize things when really it's, okay, yes, so you have all these things and it's really important, like low progesterone and high cortisol and yada, yada, yada. But what the root thing comes down to is the basics. And I think we try to overcomplicate things sometimes. So like we do have our specialty stuff, but like then people are mad because they get like the tests of like, okay, well, you just got to eat more carbs. And they're like, pardon what? Like, so I think just learning to not try and like go to like level 12 before you get to like level 1 of, are you eating like 3 meals a day or are we doing like 7 one day and 2 the next? So I think just like simplifying things a bit more, because it's easy to get caught up in the hormone stuff because I like it, it's exciting, and it's like what I
nerd.
love. yeah.
But I think from a practicalities point, that's an important thing where people if they can't even do like the basic stuff, one has no business making the complex stuff. Even we were talking with Lane Norton about that yesterday, where he's like, no, you have to prove to me you can do basic fucking shit before I fancy your protocol up. You have to prove to me. Otherwise, we have no business doing it.
Well, it's like same with like exercise, same with nutrition. It's like people want all these like advanced workouts and stuff. And it's like, but have you mastered and like crushed out like are you squatting? Are you lunging? Like it doesn't have to be fancy. I think people want fancy because it's like cool and sexy and like it's easy to market, where it's like, hey Stacy, have you tried drinking water? And it's like, that doesn't sell good.
No, not at all. But at the end of the day, if Stacy can't drink water, I bet your magic carb cycling strategy with super intricate nutritional periodization isn't going to last more than about 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just like, I think in business even, like we've tried like to fancy stuff up sometimes or things like that, and it's like okay, like we went too far one way, like we need to come back and just like simplify stuff. And I think it's easy to do that in like all aspects of life. Like we come up with like these fucking ridiculous like morning routines. And like I don't know if it was at this conference or another one, and it's like, it's like, okay, you had I think Lane talked about it, but I also Jonathan Goodman did too, and it was at the other conference I went to, and it was like, everyone's like, okay, yes, you have this morning routine and you do your meditation and you do this and you do that and the cold plunge and yada, yada, yada. And that's how you get your stress levels down. I'm like, do you really think that someone who's got like 3 kids under the age of 7 has time to do an ice bath every morning and meditate? Like, no, that's not the goal in the morning. That's not realistic. Yeah. So it's like, but people forget what their life was like during these like busy grind type times. Because people are always like, how did you grow your business so much? I'm like, I was single. My mom had passed away. I literally had nobody to take care of. It was me in a house by myself.
No goats.
No goats at this time. No goats. But like I had a cat, and that was it. And it's like all I did was work. I went to the gym. I like ate out of my air fryer. Super like good nutrition. It was like more cost affordable. Like I didn't have a ton of variables, so it's like I could focus on one thing and like literally dedicate my life to it. But it's like now it's different because like now I have someone I actually want to spend time with, and like I'm not going to the gym like every single day, and I'm not doing like copious amounts of like meal prep or like it's so different. So sometimes I think we really forget about what real life is like, because people are like, oh yeah, now I'm at this point and this is what life is like. It's like, okay, but to get you to where you are now, it was different. Your circumstances were different. So it's like you really have to think about that stuff. And I think that's like a big flaw with like all this shit you see on social media of like
Agreed.
Like all this stupid morning routine, evening routine. I'm like, do you think any regular person working 9 to 5 with children and activities after has time for a 2-hour morning and nighttime routine? Like that's obscene.
There's this one page. I don't follow the dude, but it pops up on my shit. Probably it's because I watch it longer and because I get shitty about it. It's like the guy
it makes you so mad.
It's like these pages where like it'll take them 25 minutes to make their bed. It's like they're getting out like special perfumes and colognes. They're like he gets an iron for his sheets, like what you use to like for like a shirt. He like
why
he'll fold like, you ever like imagine if I said you're gonna have to wrap this Christmas gift, but if you do it perfect, you'll make $1 million. You would think about the time and intention and effort you would do that. That's what they're doing to their bed. And they're like getting an iron out and they're like taking 18 seconds the way they lay their pillow down. And I'm like, he did this for a YouTube video and his bed is never made. Like I guarantee it. Like my bed's not made in the other room. Like my shit's everywhere. Like, but at the end of the day, I think people look at these things online or look at people they look up to, like these big Fitspo influencers, and they think that's actually how they live. Yeah. I've actually had other coaches tell me that they'll do like just to put the facade online, like to my face. They're like, yeah, I'll go and prep for this one photo shoot, take 300 pictures, and that's my Instagram role for the next year.
Yeah.
And that's and like if you watch, it's like, oh yeah, you're wearing the exact same clothes for the last year, or you're wearing the same necklace, or your hair, like the way your part is in your hair, it's the exact same because it's the facade they're trying to put online.
Yeah, no, it's not real at all. And I think so many people do that, and it's crazy. I mean, Carrie-Anna was getting mad at me. She's like, we need new photos of you because we've been using the same ones forever. But I'm like, all of them are just me eating a donut. Like, honestly, most of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's just like, even the people who are like film their morning routines, like, it's like they get out of bed and their hair already looks great. Their makeup's done up. I'm like, this is not authentic. Like, if you saw me, we should probably do this actually. I think it'd be super funny. It's like Instagram versus reality. Like, I usually shower and then go to sleep. So when I wake up in the morning, oh my gosh, I look like a gremlin / Medusa. Like, it's pretty wild.
Hang on. Confirm or deny? Or plead the fifth?
I would confirm, but we love it.
Good answer.
That's
Good
right.
answer.
I hope these picked that up. That's great. Taylor says confirm, but we love it. Fucking hot.
I have a great husband. Great husband.
Well, I think it's funny though. If you think about it, I'll see people, and I get it. We all create content. So if we're like vlogging, it's, you have to set things up.
Yeah.
Like I did a YouTube video and like, it was me like going through my front door, which means I had to go through my front door off camera, set my camera up, click record, go back into my house, shut the door, then record myself walking out. Like, we get that.
Yeah.
But like, for the people that record their morning routines, I mean, could you imagine like getting up, looking like a rag doll, setting your camera up, getting yourself pretty, putting your makeup on, checking everything, checking the teeth, all the stuff, hitting record, getting back in bed, then fake yawning when you wake up.
That makes you want to throw up.
You know what I'm saying? But like, that's what, like, it's only going to get worse. Like, you realize, like, even from like a coaching aspect, AI is going to have like all the videos, all these perfect coaches marketed to our same demographic.
Yeah.
But
no, it's insane, because Andrew Coates had actually was like, yeah, half these like fitness influencers you're seeing now are like AI generated.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Which I think, honestly, almost, it's like part of it's like scary, but then part of it's like, or you just have to not be perfect and like show your flaws and be authentic and like do the shit AI wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But then that's going to be now the new norm, is where it's like showing more, like less edified, less pretty, less stuff.
Well, I had one client.
So Steph's gremlin is going to come out on all her content now.
my one of my clients, she was like, I really appreciate that you don't have a 6-pack. And I'm like, that's like so nice to hear that no one's putting pressure on me to look a certain way to make me credible. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's funny. Well, and I think, circling back, like, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, well, it's not realistic. And that's the thing I think that you do a really good job at. You take these really scary, complex, overwhelming subjects like hormone health or gut health, menopause, PCOS, like all the things, but you make it where they're not scary and not overwhelming. And it's really practical. But that's the thing, it's practical in terms of how to fix it. Like you said, like, drink water. Hey, eat carbs before bed. Hey, let's not diet for like the next 12 weeks and just like get your baseline of your caloric tolerance where it should be. Versus like when these people go to their doctors, like you have PCOS, and it's almost like, or like any levels of menopause, it's almost like they turn the lights down and like play the Jaws theme music, and it's like dun,
honestly,
dun. You know what I mean?
No, I get like the amount of women who message me on a regular basis who are like, okay, like I took your advice, I went to go get lab work. One, they wouldn't run it, which is like super.
I had to guilt my doctor into testing my numbers.
Yeah, which is insane. Like, we have a right to know what's going on in our bodies, first of all. And they're like, oh, your labs are normal. And I'm like, okay, normal doesn't mean shit, though. Like, we want optimal. And like, if you're not testing regularly, like, then we can see if the trends are like moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. And like really understanding what you're doing before you get those tested levels. Because like blood work gives you like a glimpse in time, right? Like, it's not like a 24-hour thing or anything like that. And so when girls like, oh, like my cortisol was like normal. Okay, like what were you doing? So, well, I was fasted. I'm like, okay, but how long were you awake for before you went? Because that's gonna make a difference. And then she was like, okay, like it was like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, good, that's great. And then she's like, but I did work out for an hour before I went. And I'm like, okay, so then your cortisol actually should have been like way higher than where it was. So that's telling me
context matters.
Yeah, I'm like, something's going on. And then she's like, well, and I feel terrible, but everything came back normal. So my doctor just told me to like eat 1,000 calories and fast. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, if you're not feeling good, there is something going on. Like, I don't care what anyone tells you. You know your body better than anyone else. And if you don't feel well, something is going on. And you need to keep finding someone else who will like actually listen and validate that and actually give you something to do. Because if someone's like, just eat 1,000 calories and fast, it's like, that's so vague. That's so overwhelming, because then you're going to go to Google and then that's a nightmare. And it's like, no one actually gives you like a tangible thing of like, okay, let's just try and have protein at every meal, or let's do this for 2 weeks and then we'll add on the next thing. Like it's so overwhelming, and then people become like super anxious and upset because they don't know where to start. They feel hopeless. There's so much information. You go to Google and that's a dumpster fire. Like it's brutal. And you can find, like, if you want to fast, you can find studies that'll tell you fasting is good. But it's like you need to understand the context of like your specific situation. And it's like, did your doctor to ask you like, how's your psychological health? Are your relationships good? How's your financials? Like, are you stressed about money? How's your sleep? Are you struggling with XYZ? How's your nutrition? Are you eating this? Are you what? Like, you know, they don't actually see the whole picture. They focus on one number and then tell you it's normal or not normal, and then gives you a Band-Aid approach. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, you can't just take a thyroid number and be like, okay, it's just this. And it's like, there's like 11 systems in your body. Like, they're all going to like affect each other. You can't isolate things. That's not how things work. Everything influences everything else. So like, that's super frustrating to me when you see doctors be like, oh, it's just this, or oh, it's your cholesterol, let's just take this out. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, did you ask if they exercise? Like, that's a pretty solid question to ask.
Yeah. So what do people do? So like for the person that's listening, that's like, wow, you just described my medical history. Like, you know, what do they do?
Honestly, it sucks, but you got to keep going to different doctors, which is a freaking nightmare because sometimes you can't get in. Like, I still don't have a doctor, which is brutal. I've had one good doctor in like all my years of living, which is like insane, because she was really good, and then she moved during COVID and got like moved up or whatever. And I was like, oh, all the good ones with like good client care ended up moving up because they're so good. And you're left with people that aren't good with client care, or it's not their area that they like. Like, they're like, oh, I don't really care about menopause symptoms. Like, like, healthcare is just so vast. So trying to find someone who can specialize. But honestly, like, I did a podcast with Steph, and he was like, find a good coach, find a good like functional medicine doctor. Like, you're going to be better off that way. But like, wait until you find the person that asks you the right questions is what I would say. I was talking,
so yesterday, one of my other guests we're talking about the therapist she works with, and she's one of my favorite. Like, I don't work with her. She's actually making a connection to get her on the show, which is a dream come true. But she said just the intake form was totally different. She said, well, it was Amy. So Amy was talking about the other therapist she's worked with before. You have the therapy session and it's like, okay, so tell me about you and your story and your life, your childhood, versus the other therapist. It was Dr. Nicole LaPera, and who I really hope this goes through. And I would love to interview Dr. LaPera, but her intake form took her 2 hours.
Yeah. Like, there's so much that you should, especially with like mental health stuff. There's a lot.
Yeah. She said when she did her intake form, just in terms of questions, was like, what were the rules in your house when you were little? Like, what, like, did your parents label you? Like, it was like, what were other, like, and it was so, it almost seems off the wall. It's like, why would that matter? But it does.
Totally.
But it's like the same thing. Well, we do the same thing with clients. I know you guys do too.
Yeah.
But I think it's a big piece is like, well, what questions do they ask? I think it's a big indicator.
Yeah. Huge. Like, if they are only checking like lab work and not asking you anything else, or if like you answer and there's no follow-up questions, that's just like, wow, these people are like, hey, can you calculate my calories for me? I'm like, sure. I send them a question, like 12 questions. And then they'll usually try and like be bullet point, right? Because it's like through Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need you to like elaborate on this. I'm gonna need you to elaborate on this. And like, you can tell they get frustrated. And I'm like, I'm not giving anyone any sort of advice until I know more, because like, then it might not actually be for you, or it might not be successful for you, or it can make things worse. And like, the first like ethical principle in everything is do no harm. Like, that is number one. So like, if you're not asking the questions, you cannot be sure that you are not eliciting harm in some way, shape, or form.
Well, context changes everything.
100%.
Totally. Like, one of my favorite analogies with just context alone is imagine someone's banging on your door at 3 a.m. And you immediately go like, something's wrong. You're like, you might be grabbing something that goes, or you may be like grabbing the baseball bat, and you're like, if someone's
depends if you're in America or Canada.
Truth. Like, you are in a state of something bad might be happening. If some fellow is at my house at 3 a.m. banging my door down, like, obviously this is bad. But then as you approach the door, he yells, hey, your goat barn is on fire, and runs away. Like, one piece of context, it like took the analogy I've heard with this is how to go from a unwelcomed guest or an unwelcomed pest to a welcomed guest. And it was just context changed everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's even, that's just a surface level analogy, but it's 10 times more here when you're dealing with like all this intricate stuff.
Yeah, no, it's like you can't, like I said, like that's like taking lab work and being like, oh, it's this, or you going in and be like, I think I'm struggling with my mental health, and they just give you like anti-anxiety meds or antidepressants,
sure,
which like works for some people, but like in menopause, for example, low estrogen results in a lot of like cognitive changes, like a ton. So it's like, how about we address like nutrition and like really help with hormone health as best as we can, and what that looks like. Like, why is the first response always just like a Band-Aid? And then people aren't asking, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge thing. Like, and you should ask your doctor, why are you putting me on this? And like, if they get mad at you, that's like a red flag to me. I'm a terrible patient though. I will like, I'm not leaving until I get the lab work I want.
Yeah.
And I will ask a bajillion questions and they'll be like upset or whatever. And it's like, well, I can see you Googling stuff too. Like, I can ask the questions. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you're a nightmare of a patient.
Oh, for sure.
Well, but I think people should be. I think if you are not getting the clarity that you need and your problems aren't getting solved, you should be more of an advocate for yourself. Christy and I were talking about this on the podcast the other day, yesterday, is most people are not an advocate enough for themselves. My wife and I have had this conversation with her sleep stuff. She went through for years through regular doctors who just kept saying, oh, sweetie, you need to sleep more. You need to sleep more. You need to sleep more. And she's like, bitch, I sleep 18 hours a day. And I still, and something's wrong. It wasn't until she fired another doctor and got another doctor. He go here, doctor, and he says, wait, something else is here. I want to do these tests. I want to do this sleep study. I want to do this, this, and this. Homegirl has narcolepsy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. Shelby's narcoleptic as fuck. So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Full blown narcolepsy, spinal fluid issue. Oh yeah. Complete. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And she's now medicated for it.
She must feel so much better.
Yeah. But like, I mean, she still feels like shit because narcolepsy is still one of those things there's not a lot of research on. And so it's like, oh, this pill seems to help your symptoms. So let's start this. She doesn't sleep 18 hours a day now and she's so much better. Like she couldn't drive like more than 20 minutes without
gosh.
You know, and it's not just like narcolepsy isn't just like what I call eye tired where you're just sleepy. It is like full body fatigue. You haven't slept in 4 days.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Yeah. But all her doctors were just like sleep more because they wouldn't listen or do tests or check anything. Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, and that's like what happened with my mom. So like, she was diagnosed with cancer like 10 years ago. She like had her, like I had a tumor removed, had her surgery, did like preventative chemo because it like wasn't like too red flaggy, and was fine for 9 years.
Red flaggy.
Yeah, quite whatever. Anyways, so then in May, what is it, 2023? So 2022. So May of like 2021, like my mom was like healthy. Like she would bike to work like an hour. Because she like enjoyed it, would like leisurely take her time, leave the house like 5 a.m. Just like the most like just enjoy things. And then all of a sudden she started having like a ton of breathing problems. It was like one day she started walking up the stairs and had to like sit because she like could not catch her breath. So she went to the doctor and they were like, okay, like it sounds like asthma. Like we'll give you some inhalers. And I'm like, how does a woman who is like so aerobically fit go from like asthma would be something that like doesn't just come out of nowhere where all of a sudden you can't breathe, and the inhalers weren't doing anything. And I was like, Mom, you need to go get like scans done, like because if colon cancer spreads, it's lungs and liver. Like we need to do this. Like, and she's like, okay. Well, then she'd go to the doctor by herself, and like if I was there, obviously, it probably would have.
Rolled your sleeves up and got rowdy.
I'm not going anywhere. But they like kept just saying it was asthma, whatever. So that was in May. And then over Christmas, she got COVID, and I had traveled before, so I hadn't seen her. So I hadn't seen her in like 2 months. And then she's like, Steph, I'm having like the worst back pain. Like, can you help me? And at that time I had my osteo clinic. So like, okay, she walked in and like instantly my heart sank. She dropped 20 pounds in 3 weeks. She looked like trash. She was in so much pain. I'm like, I am taking to Emerge right now. Like something is wrong. She's like, no, I think I just like pulled something. I'm like, no, like something is wrong. Like this is not okay. So we went to Emerge and I was like, they're doing all the screens for like back fractures and stuff. I'm like, I've already done that. Like, that's not what's going on here.
It's my job.
I'm like, can you just do like an x-ray? I'm like, because she had colon cancer 9 years ago. If it spreads, it goes to lung and liver. She's been having breathing problems since May. It is now January. Can you get some scans? And they're like, oh, the likelihood that's so rare, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, can you just do me a solid? And like, I'm not leaving. Like, you don't have to leave. You can sit there. They will not kick you out. You can stay there. So we did. And then eventually they took her in for an x-ray to check for like back fractures. Nothing. Shocking, because, already checked that. So they're like, okay, we'll just like do an ultrasound. Her whole left lung was collapsed because of a tumor blocking her bronchial on her left side. So
wow.
Yeah. So like I was pissed off because I was like, fuck, if someone would have listened to me fucking back in May of last year, this could have been like dealt with. So then they like did scans and stuff. And then they were like, oh yeah, like it's cancer. Like we did the biopsy. And like I knew it. Like as soon as they told me, I'm like, fuck, like we're looking at like years probably. So then they go in to like do the scans. They told us they were going to do treatment. And then she fell out of bed like 2 nights later trying to like go to the bathroom. And they did scans again and it was in her brain. And like the tumors were growing so quickly. She was gone in 2 weeks. And it's like, so that's why I'm a huge, oh, dang it. I was doing so good.
Yes.
But this is why I'm such a huge advocate for health. Oh, dang it. Because like that could have been prevented. And I've heard so many stories of people like having the same situation where it's just like doctors aren't listening to you and like, something's wrong with your body. Like you know, and like to get your concerns sloughed off is insane. And like she could have been still here, like, and she was like in her 50s when she died. Like that's crazy. So it's like, for me, I'm such a huge advocate for stuff. And I'm like, be that asshole patient. Honestly, I don't care. Like, because I hear this story so often. I know people whose parents died because they said they checked off the blood work before they were like taken out of the hospital and they didn't. And her dad died of sepsis in his home the next day. And it's just like, it's so like, I think our healthcare system honestly sucks. I've heard it on both sides of
I was going to say over here, like, I know you're talking in Canada, but like over here is shitty as fuck too.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so broken. Like if you have like a broken bone or you need a surgery, great. Obviously you want a doctor to fix that shit. I think we do a absolutely horrendous job at chronic conditions. And then like, if you toss hormones and shit like that, it's like, good luck.
It seems to be a lot of the conversations I've been having lately, the running theme of like, of value yourself enough where you have to be the craziest advocate for yourself, even if that, which goes against a lot of like, if you struggle with your own worthiness, if you struggle with people pleasing, if you struggle with like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, but like, this is the shit that's on the line. And I think this is why it's important to talk about, where it obviously matters and it's such a big deal, but no one, but the system doesn't take it that way.
It's crazy and it affects your quality of life. Like this is an extreme case, obviously, but like, let's say you're struggling with hot flashes and you can't sleep during the night. That's a fucking problem. Like that's gonna leak into your entire life. Like if you're not sleeping well, you have no energy, you're not gonna be able to lose weight, you're gonna feel crappy, you don't have the energy to do stuff with your family, you're not productive at work. But like they're like, whatever, like take this, hopefully it helps, like take a little bit of this without even testing hormones half the time. They just hand out HRT like nobody's business. I'm like, or you figure out where they are first, then you can like figure out the proper dosage and stuff. But it's like, it matters. And like, just like for in that instance, it might not be a life or death thing, but like nobody thought like quote unquote asthma was like a life or death thing. And turns out, yeah, it is.
It's a brain tumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. Do you have any, other than just being an asshole patient? Do you?
I'm a huge advocate for being an asshole patient. I love it. Honestly.
Well, so are there other things like how does someone go about in your opinion, how does someone go about finding a better person, and how does someone be a better advocate so these things don't happen, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like be an asshole patient, but like if you know someone who like has good doctors and stuff like that, talk to them. For like menopause stuff, you can actually find there's like a registry of like people who are like, I can't remember what the website is, so I could like send it to you and put it in the show notes for people who like specifically specialize in this stuff. Because let's face it, if you're going somewhere where it's not their specialty or they're not well informed, like good luck. Like it sucks that way. So honestly, I lean on like friends a lot, like other colleagues and stuff like that. Like you have to, because like referral is going to be the best way for like people who like actually give a shit and like are quote unquote good doctors. Cause some people's like bedside manner and stuff is brutal, like brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. So let me ask you this. So kind of in the same vein, for people that are in the middle of that mess, cause that can be a long process. Like Shelby's was like years, for example. What are things people can do? Cause obviously people are listening to this. They're the people who are in that position, like whether it be hot flashes or menopause stuff or hormonal issues, or just the weight loss isn't happening because they, whatever. What are some, in your opinion, better practices for stuff they're doing right now? Like, cause something I've really enjoyed with your content lately, I love the little bit of polarity where it's like, hey, you should be eating carbs right before bed. Hey, you shouldn't be dieting all year round. Like we teach this stuff in general, but it's even more important for menopausal or for levels of menopause. So talk about that.
Yeah. So I think first of all, realizing that if you're struggling with weight loss is a symptom. Like that's not like a root thing that we need to address. It's what's causing your inability to lose weight. Like that's the more important question to ask. And yeah, it's going to be hormones or you've got gut health stuff, but most of the time that's caused by something else also. So like just getting the HRT isn't going to make you lose weight right away. Like that's not how that stuff works. So a lot of it's just like taking inventory of your life and realizing how freaking stressed out you are. Like stress, I'm a believer, is like the 99% cause of like literally everything that we're experiencing. Like if you think about it, we have all the crazy stuff happening in the world all the time, whether it's like wars and all that kind of stuff. We have financial stress, the economy's not great. There's relationship stress, you've got kids stuff, go, work is crazy. Like people are like, oh, I'm managing it well. And it's like, no, you're not. Like you might think logically you're dealing with it well, but you're not. Like what you're dealing with is like, you're like that frog or lobster or whatever the heck the analogy is, like boiling in water. Like the water gets hotter and hotter and hotter, but you don't realize what it's doing to yourself. And then we're trying to push ourselves by eating less, and we're trying to do all this crazy exercise. And it's like, how do you think adding more and more stress to something isn't going to cause your body to like implode basically? Like it is. Like if you're not sleeping enough, like there's all of these things that we don't realize that we're in such a worse position than we're actually in, because the whole hustle culture is so glorified and go. And like someone has it worse off than me. So like I can't actually be that stressed. And it's like, it's all relative and what your body's like used to. Like, so that stuff matters. Like I'm at a point now that I can't even have pre-workout without having like an anxiety attack at the gym because my stress tolerance is such trash.
Meanwhile, I could take a gram of caffeine effortless. I'm just kidding.
I can't. Like honestly, like Taylor could tell you, like the last 3 times I've ever had pre-workout, I have left the gym in tears where I'm just like, I don't know why I'm so anxious. And then I figured out it's the pre-workout, but it's like,
I think people don't realize also, they were talking about it at the conference too, that trying to lose weight, like being in a calorie deficit, doing all the things is a massive stressor of itself. I think people are oblivious. They don't realize that like it can fuck with your nervous system, staying in a deficit without any issues, like without being menopausal or whatever, that it alone is a stressor, let alone you've got all of the stuff going into menopause, or whatever hormonal issues, that it's this massive stressor and you shouldn't stay there all the time.
Yeah, no, like being a calorie deficit will decrease your thyroid function, like no matter who you are. You're going to see changes in like your hormones that regulate appetite and hunger, like and satiety. Like you're going to see all of these changes that are happening anyways. Cortisol is going to go up, sex hormone production is going to go down. So before you could handle that stuff before you hit perimenopause and menopause, because you had a ton of these hormones. Now you don't. So like now you're so much more sensitive to stress where you don't realize. Some women are like, I don't know why. I'm like crying over the stupidest little thing now. It's like, yeah, because you don't have the stuff to buffer. And if you've been in this stress state for so freaking long, your body can't do it. Like it can't.
So will you talk about that? Because I think one of the things that talking about, let's say stress in particular, because like we all know it's like stress doesn't magically store fat. Otherwise we would all be fucked. But it does cause all these other issues, and that can make fat loss really fucking hard. But a lot of people think that the thing I hear a lot is people go, oh, I'm stressed at my job, my kids, my whatever. and they sign off on the idea of ever losing weight ever again. They think it's like how like people say, oh, sugar stores fat because of insulin. I'm like, it's not that cut and dry, but people act like stress is that way. They're like, oh, if I'm stressed, fat loss is hopeless.
Yep.
And it's not, but stress does all this other stuff on the body. So talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm very well aware that like most people cannot,
the one on the left, the far left, the other thing. Yeah.
The one you didn't grab. Yeah. So for most people, you can't remove some stressors. Like it's not possible. You can't like magically get rid of everyone in your life that causes you stress. You can't magically have all your financial stresses go away. You can't change what's going on in the world. Like you can't deal with all those. Like you can't get rid of them. Like they're always going to be there. So it's learning how to buffer stress through nutrition, which like honestly, a lot of people who are very stressed, you can eat a lot more food because like your body needs it 100%. Because you're in a high stress state. So therefore, if you actually get yourself to where you need to be, like nutritionally, you can lose weight at a significantly higher caloric intake. So it's just like learning how to manage stress through nutrition is like your number one buffer because you can't get rid of it. So how do we do it? Usually it's more carbs. So if you're more stressed out, fun fact, you guys, have some pasta. This is your pass.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about how much just hunger alone, I don't like you get hungry Jared or hangry Jared or like it's bad. Like, you know, not just physiologically, but emotionally and like conversation. Like my brain doesn't fucking work. Like none of ours does. But I think people forget that, but then they're so convinced that 1,000 calories is it or 1,200 calories are it. And I'm not a 60-year-old menopausal woman. I'm like a 32-year-old. Hate that. 32-year-old
today,
healthy
right?
male today.
Jared's birthday's today, everybody. I'm gonna make people sing happy birthday to you at the conference.
Steph and I are speaking at an event today at the exact same time. We're on a panel.
I'm gonna make it a big deal.
And Steph is gonna ruffle the feathers. Apparently, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
But where was I going with that? But like a thing that we have happen a lot in coaching, and this is not a disclaimer for everyone, but I've been known, like me and my team have been known to double calories and like get people to lose like 40 pounds. Yeah. So it's a dope headline, like how to double your calories and lose 40 pounds. Yeah. But for people like you and me, it's physiologic. But people are shocked. I'm sure your people go through this too, where they've been indoctrinated into diet culture and hustle culture and all the things. And then they go from 1,200 calories to 2,000 and they're losing weight and feeling better and sex drive is back and energy is up. And they feel like they're doing something wrong. They feel like they're getting away with like murder.
Yeah, and then they self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Then they're like, no, this can't be right. It can't be this easy.
It's too good to be true.
Yeah, we get that all the time. Like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong because it's easy. I'm like, that's a good sign. Like, that's good. That's a really good sign. But I have women that come in and they're wanting to lose X amount of weight. Like I had a podcast come out with one of our clients and she talked about, she actually gained weight in the program, 2 pounds, but she's down like pant sizes, arms look great. She's like super pumped to have like biceps. Like she's like, she looks so good. Like she looks like she would be lighter than where she was when she first started. So like, honestly, like the scale doesn't mean anything anyways. But like I have a lot of women that come in and then they're like, they start feeling so good. They're like, I am sleeping through the night. I have energy. Like I'm pooping every day. Like I have never felt this good. Like I thought I felt good. That was garbage. Like I feel amazing. And then I have women that don't even want to go into a fat loss ever. They're like, I feel so good. Let's just focus on building muscle. I'm like, perfect. And then in the end, they end up like getting like losing inches and stuff. But like, we don't ever actually go into like a calorie deficit because we don't need to.
Yeah.
Which is like amazing.
Yeah.
Look better and never have to cut your calories. Yes.
Well, and I think people forget too, like when you brought up that, right, when they're in the point where they're like, this is easy. It should be harder. I feel like I'm doing something wrong or getting away with murder. And they sabotage because subconsciously the pattern of sabotage, how it works from a neurological level, it only comes in when we're doing well.
Yeah.
Like people are like, oh, it's like clockwork. I do well and I fall off. I go, you think that's a fucking accident?
Yeah.
It's literally like the human condition of sabotage is like that thermostat on the wall where if it's right now it's set at 68 because I'm an asshole. But if I left that window open and the room heated up to 75, it would kick on to cool the environment back off. But so many people's like their identity and their beliefs around this stuff is a we'll say a 68, but then they heat up and they're losing weight, feeling great, then it's because they never adjusted their internal thermostat. They're like, wait, no, this too good be true. And then they sabotage it back to down here.
Well, and the environment makes such a huge difference because like, imagine, like I have a woman right now that's trying to like convert everyone to like eat more food and stop fasting. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Like they'll do it when they're ready. Like you just lead by example. And she's like, it's so hard not to want to like go back to that because like they're all doing it. But she's like, I'm trying to tell them how good I feel. And like, they're not willing to do it. I'm like, yeah, but that's because what they're focusing on is wanting to lose weight. And right now you're just like, we're healing everything. And like, you're not seeing this magic 40 pounds in 40 days bull crap that you like see all the time. Right. So it's like, I'm like, when you start seeing the physical changes, that's when I'm like, oh shit, I should have done that. But like you're 7 months ahead of them. And now they have to undo everything they're doing now. So their journey is going to be significantly longer than yours. So I'm like, they're not going to do anything or like ask you about it until they see the change that they're like chasing. Cause like for them, they're like, energy, whatever. I just want to be skinny. Like that's literally the mentality, which sucks.
Right. So what are some of the uncommon worst practices for a woman in menopause, middle-aged? I know there's like a laundry list, but like the big
there's
one.
A lot I can
well,
talk
like because like there were some that like I didn't even know. I didn't know that certain things were extra bad for women in menopause. Like it was news to me that fasting was a big no-no for women in fat loss. Like, you know, like, it makes sense, but I didn't know it was like a major issue. Like I assume just if their numbers are correct, like it's not that big of a deal as far as timing. But you're like, no, fasting's fucking you up. So talk about all that.
Yeah. So with fasting, like, can it work for some people? Absolutely. If you are like in a good position, because fasting is very stressful on our body. Like it's a stress. It's going to increase your cortisol levels. Like there's a study that just came out actually that like showed it's like associated with like negative cardiovascular metabolic outcomes if like fasting once you're like in menopause, which was super interesting. I'm like, yes, finally published this study.
It's trendy right now. Like everyone's like everyone should be fasting. It's going to make you live longer and kill bad cells. And it's like,
well, there's faster way to weight loss, right? Like that's the big thing that's going on right now. But it's funny is I have a bunch of the faster way to fat loss coaches messaging me for stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Motherfucker.
I will convert you.
That's right.
But yeah, it's a stress on your body. And the thing is, it's like women during perimenopause and menopause, like they're all doing cardio. They're all cutting their carbs. They're all eating too low calorie. They're not getting enough protein in. It's going to be really hard to get all those things in if you're only eating in like an 8-hour window. Plus like muscle mass, like once estrogen goes down, we have such a hard time building and maintaining muscle because that's an anabolic hormone. It helps build muscle. So when that's gone, we have a really hard time putting it on. And then like low calorie state, low carb state, body and like cardio, like those things are going to double whammy break down muscle. Fasting also does that. So it's like, then people are like, oh, like I'm losing weight, but I don't look good. It's like, yeah, because you're actually
withering away.
Well, and you're literally actually increasing your body fat percentage because like you're losing more muscle. And like studies show that like fasting more than 16 hours in women is going to result in muscle loss, 12 if you're going through perimenopause and menopause.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, just eat, honestly, like when people ask me questions, I'm like, are you eating breakfast? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, just start there. And they're like, I don't want to. I'm like, literally, that's step number one. Like, if you're not willing to eat breakfast and just focus on eating a meal in the morning, like, I don't know that I can help you.
One thing I don't remember, it was a piece of content of yours. I don't know if it was you on a clip of you on someone else's show or if it was your show. But you were talking about sometimes you have to force feed yourself and the perspective around that. So talk about like if you're not hungry, whether it be perimenopause, menopause, you may have to force feed yourself.
Yeah. And it's going to take time because like our body adapts to the signals we give it. Right. And that comes with hunger. Our body is very cyclical in terms of like, if you eat at a regular time, you're always going to be hungry at that time. So if haven't been eating breakfast for years, like, yeah, plus cortisol is also going to mess up with your hunger too. For some people, if you're in a high stress state, either you want to eat everything or you want to eat nothing. Like it's one or the other, right? Typically for people. And it's going to be tough. So like start small. And like with calorie dense foods, people are like, you're telling me to eat calorie dense foods. I'm like, I'm not telling you to eat a donut for breakfast, even though that would be delicious. Like just
donuts and eggs. Let's go.
But it's like, just start small. I'm not asking you to have like a 500 calorie breakfast right off the hop. It's like, you know what? If all you can muster is like a handful of nuts to start, I am happier with that than if you're doing nothing. Then as your appetite starts to come up and we get those calories up, appetite will come up with it. And this is where people panic. They're like, holy crap, I woke up, I am so hungry, Steph. And I'm like, this is the day we dance. Like,
yes,
be excited, you made it. Like, this is what I want to hear. Like, you should be waking up hungry. Like, that's a good sign. So, but it's going to take time to get there. And like, people get panicked feeling hungry sometimes, especially if you've been fasting for a long time, because you're not going to feel hungry. But it's like, just start small and slowly increase. Protein obviously is going to be like a tough one because it's so filling. So that sometimes I almost like just get people to focus on other things to kind of get that hunger cue up, and then we start putting in the protein. But again, same with fasting. Like if you're eating in an 8-hour window, like how the heck are you cramming 150 grams of protein in your body? Like
it's hard.
That's a small, like you're just eating the whole time.
Yeah, not let alone like for most people, that's gonna make their gut all sorts of upset. Like I mean, that's a lot for most people to have it in that kind of window.
I don't know how people do
like
it,
eating
honestly.
that much chicken or that much anything. Like that's a lot. I mean, I feel like you would have the most upset stomach, bloated, constipated.
Yeah, you would feel like garbage.
Because like not just the protein, but then fiber and then veggies and all the things and what like it's just. I feel
and like the people who like, because now people understand protein's so important for muscle mass and metabolism and all those things and blood sugar and all that stuff, which is like really good. But like they're like, oh man, like I don't want to stop fasting, but I cannot get my protein in. And I'm like, you know why? Because you're missing an entire meal in your day. You could solve that problem by having breakfast. But people are just so scared to eat breakfast.
Yeah.
Like so scared to eat breakfast.
Now, do you think for you, just curious, obviously for menopausal stuff, it's important, but do you think it's important for everyone on the planet, or do you think it's just mostly for menopausal conditions?
Menopausal for sure, obviously, but it really depends on the person and like your stress levels, your lifestyle. If you're able to get your nutritional intake when you're fasting, sure. But like, then I'm like questioning, are a lot of those foods processed so they're easier to eat in a smaller window? Like, cause then you have like the food quality talk there too, right? Cause I mean, if you're going to eat like, let's say 2,000 calories in a day in 8 hours, I mean, if you're crushing chips, you're probably going to make it.
Right.
But I mean, if you're focusing on 80% whole foods, like you're having like some rice and chicken and broccoli, like you're gonna have a hard time choking that down.
Truth. Yeah. 100%. Like if you're living like, let's say 80-20.
Yeah.
Unless like it's all dates and avocado or something.
Yeah.
Like,
if like all you're eating is like nuts, seeds, like you'll like avocado. Drinking
olive oil from the handle or something.
then you might be able to do it. But I mean, then you're not gonna hit your protein goals.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like, so that's where I start to like question, because if you're fasting, getting it in, it's like, how much are you like utilizing like your protein shakes, your protein bars, your like juices or things like that, just to get the calories in, right? So it can be pretty tricky that way. And plus I'm like, you guys, food's meant to be enjoyed anyways. Like, why are you like that's a huge part too. It's like, let's figure out what you like to eat and let's just spread out during the day. Like that's fine.
I love that. I look down. I can't believe it's been almost an hour. We're like 50 minutes in right now. I feel like this went by like that. This has been dope. Thank you again for doing this and making the haul over here. I appreciate it.
Fun. You did manage to make me cry. So
bucket list shit right there. Taylor's like, respect. Let's go.
No, he sees me cry a lot. I'm actually a pretty emotional person.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for just like, all right, let's bring Jared down. That's right. Where can people find you with all your goodies? Yeah.
So on Instagram I'm vitalityoet.stephanie. I always put it backwards.
It'll be in the show notes for those that are like, what the fuck did she just say?
vitalityoet.stephanie. And then on Facebook, I'm still Stephanie Fusnik because I haven't changed my last name legally yet, but it will be Crassweller at some point. I do go. You're not making
y'all aren't making the names any easier.
I know. Like it's just, you know what? It'll be in the show notes because I'm just gonna freaking confuse you guys. But I do have a podcast, the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. That'll never change.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's a safe bet. No last names in that one.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
I love it. Good stuff. Well, thank you again, Steph.
Yes, thank you.
We will talk soon. And we are back. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the podcast. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this interview with Stephanie. I'm telling you, in person is a whole different vibe and is so much more fun. So I do have some stuff before you leave. Number one, be sure and subscribe if you haven't to the show. Number two, if you haven't left a review and this is helpful, please leave me a review wherever you're listening to it on. Number three, reach out to Stephanie. Reach out to Stephanie. Tell her that you heard her on the show. Share screen grabs and screenshots and post it on your socials and tag both of us us in it. That way we can reshare it and everything. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not quite sure where to even get started with all this stuff, I have a bunch of free resources for you. Number one, if you have not gone through my fat loss checklist mini course, it's completely for free. It just goes through your email. You go at your own pace kind of thing. But it's a mini course. If you haven't gone through it on how to go through weight loss the right way without it being so friction filled, then definitely hit the link below and go through that. If you are not part of my Fat Loss Simplified Facebook group, you need a home base in a community. Too often going through this journey, we feel alone. Like the husband doesn't get it, your kids don't get it, your friends are like crabs in a bucket. And it's just like, you kind of feel alone and don't have the right community. So having a group of people around you that are in the same boat as you, that are all moving towards the same goal, is really helpful. And inside this group, I put a lot of trainings, a lot of resources, and a lot of content that is some of the best that I put out that's going to help you get to where you want to be. It's completely for free. So be sure and join that at the link below. And then finally, if you are listening to this and you're like, I don't even know where to get started at all, like I don't want to have to think about this, I've been trying to do this on my own for too long, I need accountability, and you're just ready to get to where you want to be, you can also apply for coaching straight from the podcast. Because with this kind of thing with coaching, we're very picky and choosy who we work with, but because you're listening to the podcast, you have a very special place in my heart, and you're a higher caliber person when it comes to this stuff. Not everyone's going to sit and listen to an episode or a show called Dieting from the Inside Out. Like you're my kind of people, just the fact that you're on my show alone. So I value that. So you can actually go right to our calendar from the podcast show notes. If you just go to the description, you can schedule right on our calendar, and that way we can see if coaching is even a good fit or not. But otherwise, that's it. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I appreciate you. I love you. I'll talk to you next week.